What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and today we have a video for those of you guys out there still fighting for the playoffs, but you're not just fighting for the playoffs, you're fighting for your life. You are fighting tooth and nail. You have 2 weeks for the rest of your life, and with all the bye weeks going on, you are looking at guys like Dameon Pierce in your starting lineup. You are looking at guys like Quentin Johnson in your starting lineup, and you are just down horrendous. Well, today we're going to talk through my 5 sneaky starts for Week 13. These guys are all outside the top 24 in expert consensus. Some of them are even just available on waiver wire for you guys. So this is a great video for any of you guys out there scratching and clawing, playing somebody in your lineup that you're like, man, I'm just punting that position. I have some good plays for you guys here today so you can squeak into the playoffs, because all you got to do is make the dance, find some good waiver wire ads, get hot at the right time, and you can win. I've won as a 6th seed before. It happens all the time. So with all that being said, we're going to do some dumpster diving today. As always, if you enjoy me, shit down below, subscribe, leave a like. Let's go.
Stones, like this froze, ice cold, ice around my body like I'm frozen. She gon' let me.
All right, now first up, this one isn't anything too crazy, all right? First up, we have Hollywood Brown, all right? So this is probably the most luxury start we're going to talk through today, okay? Marquise Brown, he is the expert consensus wide receiver 29. He is my wide receiver 25, by the way. If you want rankings, they're on patreon.com/Ron Stewart. Week 13, though. If you aren't on Patreon already, you're probably not on Patreon, period. But I'm 4 spots higher than consensus on Marquise Brown this week. He's going to be on the road in Pittsburgh, and I want to give you guys a vote of confidence, right? Remember, you have Marquise Brown, and you're like, man, I'm done flexing this guy, right? Like, I'm just going to look to my next option this week, and Jahan Dotson's going in the lineup. I can't do the Marquise Brown thing anymore. Chill out. Put Marquise Brown in the lineup, or like maybe a Drake London or something. Marquise Brown, to me, again, I have him as wide receiver 25, so a fringe wide receiver 2 this week. He's in a great matchup, and I think this is where finally things click with Kyler Murray. Now, I wrote a little bit of a red line here where you can see that's when Kyler Murray returned. Kyler Murray came back in Week 10, and since then, it's not been great. Like, Marquise Brown was actually so good. Like, if you look weeks 1 through 6, he was amazing, still had a ton of volume, and then he honestly kind of did worse with Kyler, which was surprising. We all thought, Kyler's going to come back, Marquise Brown was going to smash. That wasn't the case, but last week he finally turned a corner where he had 12 targets. Now, that only resulted in 14.8 PPR points, but I think that we're starting to see something here, right? Kyler is looking to Marquise Brown. He's targeting Marquise Brown, and I think that that's going to propel him moving forward into this week where we sort of get the volume and the efficiency meeting together versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are allowing the 11th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. This is a team that you would think would be a good defense against the pass. They have a great defensive line with their secondary. I think the rookie Porter is great, but they have like Patrick Peterson back there. They don't have the best secondary in the world. Minka Fitzpatrick's been banged up, but they are allowing the 11th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. And if we dig a little bit deeper, we have the edge over at the 33rd team. They have a sick tool called the edge here, where you can sort per game, fantasy points per game to the slot. The Pittsburgh Steelers are allowing the 3rd most fantasy points per game to slot wide receivers. Now, Marquise Brown isn't a slot wide receiver per se, but he runs about a quarter of his routes from the slot. So he should get a lot of beneficial, coverage from the slot. He also is great against man coverage, where according to PFF, his yards per run versus man coverage is 2.19, while his yards per run versus zone is 1.16. So he's much better versus man coverage. He has an 87.9 versus man receiving grade, 7th in the NFL, 61.5 versus zone. That's like outside the top 40. So he is much better versus man. The Pittsburgh Steelers run man coverage at the 7th highest rate in the NFL. So again, we're going to have man coverage, which is good for Marquise Brown. We're going to have light, good targets from the slot, which is good for Marquise Brown as he sort of rotates in there. And this is a team that's going to be on the road. Cardinals going into Pittsburgh, 5.5-point underdogs, I believe. So they're going to have to pass the ball, and that's what they've been doing since Kyler returned here. If we look at weeks 1 through 9 neutral pass rate, so that's just, not 3rd and 12, right? Like, this is just neutral situations, 1st and 10, 2nd and medium. They're passing the ball 62.2% of the time from weeks 10 through 12 with Kyler, 4th most in the NFL. Before Kyler came in, they were at 32nd, 42.4% neutral pass rate. So they've been really opening things up, passing the ball with Kyler Murray. So I think we're going to see volume. They're going to be playing from behind, so they're going to be passing the ball a ton, and it's a soft Pittsburgh secondary for Marquise Brown. I think it's the perfect matchup for him to bounce back. Now, this is where we go dumpster diving, okay? So this is where you put on your gas mask, you put on your hazmat suit or your garbage driver suit attire, and it's time to plug your nose, and we're going dumpster diving here. First up, I said first up, but it's really second up, Samaje Perine. All right, Samaje Perine is available in 65% of ESPN leagues, and I think you could do a lot worse than Samaje Perine as like a low-end RB2 in a hero RB build. Now, he is my RB31 on the week, so he's not quite an RB2. He's really a mid-range RB3, but again, if you're in a pinch, he'll do in that spot. He's consensus RB37, so I'm 6 spots higher than consensus on him, and this is why I like Samaje Perine. Since the Week 9 bye for the Broncos, this is over the last 3 games, he is first in inside the 5 attempts, percentage of inside the 5 rush attempts, 66% of them. I think that he has 2 to Russell Wilson's 1, but he's been getting the goal line carries. This is courtesy of the data suite on fantasypoints.com. They have a great tool there. And then he also has the most receiving yards of the running backs on that team, along with the most receptions. So he has 11 catches for 106 receiving yards. That's amazing for Samaje Perine there. So that is perfect, right? Those are your high-value touches. You're getting points in fantasy from receiving and touchdowns for running backs. And he has access to both of those, and he gets a perfect matchup versus the Houston defense, where, again, we look at the edge. The Houston defense is allowing the 10th most rushing touchdowns with 8 rushing touchdowns allowed. And then on top of that, I know we're putting a lot on the screen here, we have the edge showing us that they also allow 38 receiving yards per game to opposing running backs, which is 9th in the NFL. So this is tough. We can't really fit everything on the screen here, but you guys can see what we're working with when it comes to Samaje Perine. Man, you're going to have to squint or sort of zoom in to see those, but I think that will do. So we have a spot here where Perine is the preferred goal line back here, preferred receiving back versus a team that is prone to rushing touchdowns, receiving yards to running backs. And then on top of that, you have an amazing game environment where this game is tied with like your high-end game environments. They're tied at 47.5 over-under. They are tied with the Eagles-49ers game for the second highest over-under on the slate. There's going to be a ton of points. The Broncos are underdogs, so there should be checkdowns for Samaje Perine. There should be 1 to 2 goal line opportunities. That's really all you can ask for. He's probably going to flirt with like 10 to 12 touches, and they're all going to be valuable, where they're either going to be targets or they're going to be in close on the goal line for Samaje Perine. Again, available in 65% of ESPN leagues. I think you could do a lot worse than Perine. Now, again, fellas, put on your mud boots, put on your rain boots. We're going even deeper. Number 3, Jalen Guyton. I'm actually starting Jalen Guyton myself in a high-stakes fantasy league where there's a lot of buys going on. Those lineups are deep. We need a moonshot. Look, if you are in a spot where you are like a 15-point underdog to your opponent and you are starting I'm trying to think of like one of those like high floor, like if you're starting a Tyler Boyd, I think Jalen Guyton is a better play here, where he is my wide receiver 45. He's consensus wide receiver 55. So I'm 10 spots higher. He's going to be in New England this week. And this is the perfect setup for Jalen Guyton, where, first of all, he's been running routes. He's actually been involved here. If we look at the My Fantasy Life utilization report, you can see his last 2 games, weeks 10 and 12, 85% or more of the routes, and then a 15% target share on both, where he had 6 targets and 6 targets in both of these games. 6 targets, especially on that ADOT, where you can see 22-yard ADOT in week 12, 10.2-yard ADOT in week 10. That's an average of 16.1-yard ADOT. That means 6 targets on a 16-yard ADOT. That is going to be great efficiency-wise. He's getting a lot of end zone targets, which is good. He had 14 PPR points in week 10 as the wide receiver 25, and I think that he could go for like 15 to 25 this week on his higher range of outcomes here, where he gets kind of a perfect, like, I can't even think of the movie. I don't know. There's a movie where the guy's on a game show and he knows all the answers. Why do I not know? I don't know. You guys are going to know it. It's like one of the most famous movies of all time. But it fits perfectly, where Jalen Guyton's this outside wide receiver, and New England Patriots are susceptible to the outside wide receiver. We look at the edge tool again. You can see Patriots are one of 2 teams, them and Washington, giving up 20 or more points per game to wide receivers lining up on the outside. Now you're going to have Keenan Allen on the inside. Jalen Guyton runs. I think that they both sort of interchange, but his valuable routes, his downfield routes, are going to come from the outside, which is where the Patriots are weak. They're allowing the 10th most fantasy points to wide receivers, but the 2nd most to wide receivers lined up on the outside. So it wouldn't be shocking to me, against a soft Patriots defense, Jalen Guyton running a ton of routes here, that, he comes down with like a broken coverage, long score, and he gives you like 4 for 100 and a touchdown. Like, I think that is in his range of outcomes, especially given the fact that we have Keenan Allen banged up as well. Like, it's going to be the tight ends. It's going to be Jalen Guyton that are startable in this game. Keenan Allen did not practice on Wednesday. He did not practice on Thursday. He was limited on Friday. So if he does play, he's going to be a little bit banged up. There's a chance that he doesn't play at all. So that's something else to keep in mind. Now, on top of that, you have the Patriots, who run the 5th most man coverage in the NFL, which on top of Keenan Allen being banged up, that doesn't bode well for him, where he's 3rd in yards per out run versus zone coverage, but 28th versus man. Still good versus man, but zone is really his specialty. And again, the Patriots are running the 5th most man in the NFL, which isn't Keenan Allen's specialty. So it's not like the most beautiful matchup in the world for Keenan Allen, right, where wide alignment wide receivers are favored here, along with wide receivers who do well against man, whereas Keenan Allen's more of a slot who does well versus zone. So I think that's where you're going to sort of get Jalen Guyton here. Maybe as well, the Chargers aren't really in it anymore. Maybe they just say fuck it and they just like really air it out. I think that there's a way where Jalen Guyton is a really great play, especially like if you guys look, I've talked about this before. I'm banned on DraftKings, but if you're out there playing DFS, Jalen Guyton is a fun play this week. Now, next up, we have our onesie. So I have my tight end stream of the week and my quarterback stream of the week. If you're looking for a tight end, look no further than Brevin Jordan. Brevin Jordan's a really good play this week at home versus Denver, the other side of that Samaje Perine game. Now, Brevin Jordan, I imagine this is going to update, but last I checked, consensus has him at tight end 36. He's my tight end 13, so I'm 23 spots higher than consensus. I imagine he ends up consensus like tight end 19, tight end 18. To me, he's a top 15 play, a fringe tight end 1 this week, in a really nice spot. Now, first up, Dalton Schultz is listed out this week. So Dalton Schultz is not going to play. Brevin Jordan ran about half the routes last week. I brought it up in top 10 lessons learned. I really should have been like, oh, maybe he was hurt. Instead, I was like thinking that Dalton Schultz just got his playing time reduced. No, I think he pulled his hamstring in that game. He looks like he'll be ready to go later on in the season. We'll see how long this keeps him out for. But Brevin Jordan should be the guy. Now, the thing to keep an eye on, man, I don't know how to say this guy's name, but it's like Quentin. It's not Quentin Tarantino, but it's like Keegan Tarantino or something. He had like a 2-touchdown game last year. He's on IR right now. He could get activated, but it would be so late in the week for that to happen. Brevin Jordan should be the guy. Now, Tank Dell is going to play, but he's also banged up. So that just opens up a lot of opportunity. I just want pieces in this Houston Texans passing offense, especially when we look at this Hayden Winks graphic. He puts this up every week on his Twitter, but it's a team environment chart or graphic here where you can see across the bottom Vegas projected points. So that's just, how many points are you projected for? And then the y-axis is plays per game. So it's play volume and then scoring, which are like the two things you're looking for, right? You want an up-tempo game and you want points. Houston Texans are one of 3 teams between the Cowboys, the Lions, and the Texans that have both a high-volume offense and a high-scoring offense. So that's perfect. You want as many people, many players in that environment. We talked about it earlier, but the Broncos versus Texans game is going to have one of the highest over-unders this week. There should be a ton of points. So I just want tight ends that are in this matchup. Now, why I absolutely love Brevin Jordan here is he was a guy who I loved him coming out of school, and then he didn't test well at the combine, but he was somebody who was listed as a wide receiver in his final year at Miami. He was the number 1 tight end recruit coming out of high school. This is somebody that catches the ball, has the talent. He just didn't really have the athleticism to get all the way there, but he's still a good player that I think is going to, we've seen CJ Stroud make a guy like Noah Brown super fantasy relevant. It wouldn't shock me if he does the same for Brevin Jordan. Now, Brevin Jordan, he's not just a tight end, right? He is somebody who's going to be, again, I told you, he was listed as a wide receiver his final year at Miami. He is somebody where PFF charts how many passing plays you're on the field for and how many times you're on a route during those passing plays. He runs around 92.5% of the time he's on the field for a passing play, which is great, right? He's sandwiched between Kyle Pitts and Dalton Kincaid. 2 pass-catching tight ends. At the bottom there, you can also see Mark Andrews. So that's perfect, right? He's not a blocking tight end. He's not going to stay inside and block. He's going to run routes if he's out there on passing plays. And without Dalton Schultz, you should have Brevin Jordan out there all the time. And he's about as good a bet as any outside the top 12 tight ends to score a touchdown this week. Now, our last player we're going to talk about is my QB streamer of the week. We have Derek Carr. He is my QB 14. He is consensus QB 14. I'm 2 spots higher than consensus. I think that he's only 30% owned on ESPN. He's available everywhere. He's going to be at home versus Detroit. He's going to be in the Dome. Now, of course, no Rashid Shaheed, no Michael Thomas, potentially no Chris Olave. I'm just not sure it matters a ton, right? They have Taysom Hill still. They have Juwan Johnson. A.T. Perry's kind of been sort of interesting. They have Alvin Kamara, of course. You should be able to figure it out without those weapons. Again, it's not ideal, but the game environment is just simply too good. Where this is also one of the higher over-unders of the week. And on top of that, when we look at this graphic, right, if you just ignore the text and circle, you can see the Lions are in the top right. So that's a team that's going to score a ton of points and sort of lure the Saints into a shootout. And you can see the Saints as well. They're high up on the y-axis where they're one of it's actually really crazy that Dennis Allen's been doing this year. They were one of the most low volume, like slow offenses last year. This year, they've completely turned up the pace where you can see it's kind of Browns, Washington, Detroit, New Orleans, and it's kind of the rest of the league. So New Orleans is going to play fast, play up the tempo. Detroit's going to play fast and play high tempo. You're going to be in a dome. This could be a shootout spot here where I think the Lions are second in plays per game. The Saints are fourth in plays per game. Shootout potential here. The Lions are also allowing the 5th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. And they also have the 4th highest opposing pass rate over expectation, where their opponents are passing the ball 3.5% more over expectation. So they are actually a pass funnel defense in a dome, 2 teams that play fast. Like, this is the perfect environment to target the quarterback on the underdog. So I do absolutely love Derek Carr. I think he's going to drop back like 40+ times here. I think that there's going to be a lot of points in this game. So Derek Carr, to me, if you're struggling, if you have like Josh Allen on bye and you're looking to waivers and it's looking really rough, Derek Carr, if he's on waivers, I absolutely love him as a play this week. Now, that is going to do it for us today. As always, if you enjoy, leave a like, subscribe. We're towards the end of the year here. So if you're still hanging on, you're still watching, you're doing well, you're competing for the playoffs, let me know. Comment below, leave a like, all that good stuff. And as always, I will see you guys. I'll also say good luck, man. We're crunch time. We're trying to make it into the playoffs. Good luck. I hope all of you guys make the playoffs. Hope all you guys do well. Hope all of you guys win this week. And if you use one of these plays, let me know. I'm hoping that these guys do well. Might put a little parlay together with them. Did that a couple weeks back, and it actually cashed. So we'll see. But as always, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Stones, like this froze.